left class yesterday, we started to graph. I told you not to count by ones. What did most of us count by? Halves or a quarter. Either or works. If you count by ones, it makes this real difficult. I'm going to count by halves. And I'm going to go every other one starts as 1. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. 5 would be over here. Negative 5/4. It's negative 1.25. So negative 1 1/4 is right here. Actually, it should be right there. 2 negative 1/2 over 2 down 1/2. 3 is 1. That's why it didn't fit. Three is 1/4, so it's not. It's in between the 0 and the 1/2. 4 is 1, and 5 is 7/4, which is 1.75. So there's 1, 1.5, 1.75. If you graph this correctly, what should it look like? Should be a straight line. All equations should be a straight line. You know you did it correctly if it did that. Using the calculators, I'm going to show you eventually how to use them for this. Let's look at this one. We're going to graph y plus 5 equals 3x minus 2. There's two ways to do this. What's the first way first thing we notice? There's a y plus 5. Do I have to do anything to it, or can I just start plugging in numbers? Do I have to move it? If I'm going to use a table, do I have to rearrange it? Or can I just take this 1 and throw it in for x? And then solve it? Yeah. I can rearrange it now and move the 5 over, or I can rearrange it later. I want to do things that are going to make all the problems faster to do. Someone said, I have a plus 5. How do I get a plus 5 from this side to the other side? Why do I have to subtract it? I'm moving it to the other. Algebra problems are like big giant scales. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other, because what happens if I don't? It gets messed up. If I had to rearrange your schedules, and I just said, all right, I'm moving you to 4th period trig class, what has to happen? Everything else. Why? Everything has to be balanced. You can't take 2 classes at once. You have to balance everything out. So I'm going to subtract 5, subtract my 5. My equation is y equals, notice how I lined up that 2 and that negative 5. You don't take the negative 5 and the 3x. Variables stick with variables, numbers stay with numbers. What's 2 or negative 2 and negative 5? Negative 7. So my equation is y equals 3x minus 7. Substitute in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you guys know another way, but I'm trying to pace you into that. Fill in the chart that I want you to graph. Filling in the table, what do I get for 1? Negative 4. How about for 2? Negative 1, 2, 5, 8. What is it going up by every time? Why 3? Because it's 3x. That 3 is what it's going to change by every single time. When I graph, I'm going to count every other one like usual here. Up and down, I'm just going to count by ones because I have to go up to 8, so I'm just going to count by 1. 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is -1. 3 is 2. 4 is 5. And 5 is 8. You did it correctly if they look like they're in a straight line. Well, I'm not looking for perfection here when you freehand these graphs. If I wanted something that was perfect, I would give you graph paper. I wanted stuff that's in your notes. Are we good with tables? Are we okay with graphing? All right. I think the problem we have with graphing is when you have those fractions, you're afraid to step by halves or fourths. Linear. What does linear sound like? Line. All of these equations that we've graphed so far made what? Lines. They are called linear equations because all of them make lines. We don't have to graph to figure out if something's linear. To tell if something is linear by a table, I look for a pattern. What am I stepping by up here? Up here I'm stepping by 3 for all of them. And you double check to make sure. Just because the first 3 did, don't automatically think the last one has to also. The bottom. What am I stepping by? I'm going up 2, up 2, up 2. All of them are 2. All the top by 3, all the bottom by 2. They're all the same. If I were to graph this, this would be linear. I want you to write this table down and see if this one is linear. Up top, this one jumps by 3, 3, 5, 1. This right here tells me I have a problem. This one here is 1, 1, 1, 1. These are all the same. These ones are not. It's not linear. There is a time you have to be careful, though. I'm trying to see if I had one on here. If I look at this one now, I took out that middle column. I jump 3, I jump 3, I jump 6, and I jump 2. These are different, these are different. I need to look at where they're different at. Can I make this a 3? What do I have to do to it? Divided by 2. If I cut that in half, I get a 3. I'm good. Since I cut that in half, I have to cut this one in half. If I cut that in half, do I get the 1? Then that one is linear. If the numbers do not match up, you got to see, can you do something to both terms to make them the other one? Sometimes you skip around. Questions on this section?